In this video, you're going to learn what to do if you're feeling burnt out within your sport. Hey there, I'm Eli Straw, mental performance coach and the founder of SuccessStartsWithin.com. Dealing with burnout as an athlete can sometimes feel like you've lost your identity. Because if your whole self is tied up in your sport, then it's going to be devastating when you feel like you're burnt out a little bit, you don't have as much motivation, you're waking up in the mornings, you're not excited to go train, you're not excited to go compete. And so sometimes it can feel like you're losing a little bit of yourself. Burnout in sports happens when the stressors become too much to where you need some rest. Now, what's interesting about this is, yes, the rest can sometimes be stepping away from your sport or just taking some time away from practice or competing. But the rest is also going to be resting your mind from the stressors in the first place. And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Now, that brings us into what are the main causes of burnout in sports. The main causes are going to also be the stressors that are causing you to feel like you're just burnt out, you have no motivation, and you need a break. The first one is going to be overtraining. If you're training so much to where your body is chronically fatigued, then you're probably going to need a little bit of a break. And that's where maybe stepping away from training for a little bit or cutting down on your training can be a little bit helpful. Another reason overtraining can make you feel burnt out as an athlete is it might feel like you have no balance in your life. Let's say that you're training all the time and you feel like you have no social life. Well, you might feel like you're missing out on some things, and so that's going to cause you to feel a little bit of burnt out. Another reason that you might feel burnt out is perfectionism. If you're showing up every single day to training and to competition feeling like you have to be perfect, what that does is it puts you in the mindset of identifying reasons why you aren't perfect. And that's one of the oddest things about being a perfectionist, is that you're never actually believing you're perfect. You're always looking for reasons why you weren't perfect. Over time, if you're finding all your faults, so that's all you're really focusing on, are the things that you're not doing well and all the reasons you're falling short of being perfect. Sometimes what can happen is that it feels like you aren't really making progress. If it feels like you aren't really making progress with your training, then you might feel burnt out because you're saying, I'm putting in all this training, especially if you're feeling like you're overtrained a little bit. I'm putting in all this training, and yet I'm not seeing the results that I want. In reality, you are improving. You're steadily improving, but you're not seeing it because you're focusing on the reasons why you're not perfect yet. Over time, that can cause you to experience some burnout. Another thing that can cause you to experience burnout is going to be fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety involve the fear of failure, so you're worried about making mistakes, and then performance anxiety, where you're worried about making mistakes, worried about performing well. Every single time you show up to practices, training, or games, and you're dealing with this anxiety and fear, this can cause your sport to be something you dread because no longer are you enjoying performing. Now it's kind of filled with these negative emotions of fear and anxiety. Over time, that can lead you to not enjoy yourself as much, which can also lead you to feeling burnt out. Now, with those being the main causes of burnout, what can you do to manage burnout as an athlete? As you get started trying to work through this burnout as an athlete, the first thing you have to decide is, do I want to step away from my sport, or am I going to keep competing and training for right now? If you step away, that is a perfectly good thing for you to do. The only thing I really recommend is, if you do step away, make sure that you're working on the reasons why you're feeling burnt out in the first place. If you step away and you identify that it was some perfectionism, fear, or anxiety, you want to work on overcoming those. Because you might feel less burnt out when you step away, but as soon as you come back to your sport, if those underlying causes are not worked on, that burnout is likely to come back. If you decide to stay, that is also a very good thing for you to do, but you have to recognize that if you're working on overcoming this burnout and working through this burnout, you have to be patient with yourself. Because if it is perfectionism, for example, that is causing this burnout, then you have to give yourself time to overcome perfectionism. And if this is a habit that you've developed, it's a way of thinking that has formed, it's going to be very difficult to overcome it, and you have to really start to force yourself to focus on those small successes and the progress that you make. Now, the next question you need to ask yourself after that is, do I want to regain the love for my sport? When you're feeling burnt out, a lot of times you're feeling burnt out because the cause or the stressor has led to you not enjoying your sport as much anymore. You don't have as much passion to play. So what you have to decide is, do I want to regain that passion to play? The reason that I formed the question like that is because it really is a decision that you need to make because of the work that's required. For you to regain the passion and that love for your sport, you have to actively work on finding that joy, finding that passion, bringing that joy with you when you go to train and when you go to compete. And that does take work. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It takes effort, it takes focus, it takes determination. If you want to regain that passion, then it's all going to be worth it. But that's the next question you have to ask yourself. All right, so if you answer that question and let's say that you say yes, now what? Well, then we're going to start working on regaining the passion for you to play, regaining that love in your sport. And I mentioned just a second ago that this is about focus. You have to focus more on bringing that joy with you. Because the thing that you have to realize as an athlete is that you don't want to look for the joy outside of your sport. You need to bring that joy with you. If you bring that joy with you, you're going to have more fun when you compete, and that's going to become a cycle where then you're going to bring even more joy because you're feeling more joy coming back to you from your sport. One of the best ways you can do this is by an exercise where you're going to write out in the morning all the things you're looking forward to that day. So you say, okay, I'm looking forward to this, 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 and this. Make yourself a list. Then what you do in the evening is you reflect on, okay, what did I enjoy about today? In the morning, this exercise is putting you in a better mindset so that you're thinking, okay, I'm in more of a joy-filled mindset to bring with me to training or competition. Then in the evening, you want to reflect because you are focusing on what you enjoy rather than focusing on all the reasons why you're feeling burnt out. So that's a way that you can work on regaining that passion to play. Now, the next thing would be that you want to work on setting some better expectations and targets for yourself. And this is where we're really going to focus on managing the perfectionism that you're feeling, but then also managing some of the fear and anxiety you're feeling. So during training and also during games, you want to set some clear objectives that you're focusing on for that day. You want to do this because you don't want to be going into it thinking, am I perfect today, or have I improved, or any of that. You want to really set clear objectives. Then what you want to do after your training or after your performances is that you want to ask yourself some post-performance questions. These are going to be where you ask two simple questions. You say, what did I do well today? Where can I improve from today? What did I do well today? That gives you the opportunity and forces you each day to focus on what you did well. If you focus more on what you did well, that's going to increase your confidence. And then it's also going to increase that belief in yourself that, yes, you are improving, which is going to then fuel that motivation. And so we're slowly going to bring that motivation back into your sport. The next question, where can I improve? That's where you start to say, okay, these are the mistakes I'm making, or these are the areas of my game I still want to improve. This is how I'm going to improve them. We're not saying this is why I'm not good enough, which is probably what you were doing in the past if you were dealing with a lot of perfectionism. Instead of saying this is why I'm not good enough, we're saying, okay, this is the mistake I made. This is how I can learn from it. This is how I'm going to actually improve. Then what you do when you say this is how I'm going to improve is you use that to set a target then for your next practice, training session, or game. By using this combination of that exercise where you're outlining all the things you enjoy about your sport, and then also by setting more clear objectives and using post-performance questions for yourself, you can really work on overcoming burnout as an athlete. Now, if you're interested in a more in-depth and personalized approach to overcoming burnout as an athlete, then you need one-on-one mental performance coaching. With one-on-one mental performance coaching, I will work with you on identifying the true stressors and causes of your burnout. Then what we'll do through weekly coaching calls is talk about why this stressor is there, how you can manage it, and then we're going to come up with more personalized approaches to you overcoming the stressor and bringing that joy back into your sport. So if you're interested in learning more about one-on-one mental performance coaching for burnout, go ahead and click the link that I've put in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do.